This is Gilbert Andrew Garcia of A Tip from Gilbert, talk, inspiration, and prayer. Listen to my show every Monday from 11 to 12 on KWWJ 1360 AM, KYOK 1140 AM, KCOH at 1230 KCOH.com, Sankeet Radio at 95.1 FM, 1460 AM, and Latino Sports, KEYH 850 AM. Call in at 832-570-8075 and follow me on social media. See you then. Harris County, this is Gilbert Garcia with another tip for me, talk, inspiration, and prayer. And I have a guest who's on the way. He's not here yet, but let's hope that he arrives. If not, I'm going to be doing one of those things like, remember Federal Express when the packages did not arrive and he was like, hello, Federal, and he was just doing, what do you call it, finger puppets on the screen? Maybe you don't remember that, but it's a classic commercial. And I have, of course, my colleague, Ruby Dane, you're here with me.
Good morning, Gilbert.
But the first thing is I want to say a prayer because people told me the other day that, Gilbert, you always talk about talk, inspiration, and prayer, but you got to make sure you have some prayer in that prayer.
Yep, that's right.
And I understand. And you know what? Boy, do we need prayer more than ever today, right? Yes. And so we just got to remember, that we all are sharing this planet together. We're all here together. We all want the same thing, a better life for our family, our kids, etc. And so this came from Bishop James Dixon. And what a great guy he is. We all know him. He's a leader in the community. He's done all kinds of things. And he sent me this prayer. So, Bishop, this is for you. And it's a New Year's inspiration. And it says here, may our lives be expressions of the eternal love force, overcoming evil with good, confronting darkness with light, and serving humanity as an act of gratitude to God. This is from James Dixon II. So, Bishop, I'm sure you're out there. I'm sure you're probably listening. Thank you for that lovely prayer. And so my guest just arrived, Danny Norris. Welcome to the show, my friend.
For having me.
Yeah, can you hear yourself all right?
There we go.
Okay,
yeah,
good. Bring that mic a little bit closer to you.
All right.
And before we get going, Danny, today's a big day. Why? Well, a couple of things. Most importantly, the Texans are playing in the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's tonight, and you know what? I don't know if you got an opinion out there, Houston, about the Texans. Go ahead and call in and let us know what you think, because I know that here at my firm, everybody's got Go Texan type of gear, and I don't mean rodeo Texans. I mean Houston Texans. But it's been an interesting weekend, and it seems like every time we come to work, there's always something. And I just wanted to go off message a minute here, Danny, because as everyone knows, monetary policy is set by the Federal Reserve. And the Federal Reserve was really instituted there around the Depression. And it was really meant to have people that are sort of experts that are outside the political sphere really controlling monetary policy. And how they do it, of course, is they really set short-term interest rates. And over the years, we've had these Federal Reserve chairmen. And remember, the Federal Open Market Committee, which is FOMC, consists of some of the Fed governors as well as the presidents of certain Federal Reserve districts. And the chairman of the Fed is a very influential person. It's probably the most powerful position after the president, because it really drives the economy. And I got in the business in 1983, Houston, so I'm dating myself. And at that time, the Fed chairman was Paul Volcker. And Paul Volcker was extraordinary. But he was a big New York banker, big burly guy, must have been, 6.5 feet tall, maybe even taller than that. And he always had a big cigar. And he was one of these tough, one of these just tough guy, and he would go before the Congress under what's called the Humphrey Hawkins bill, which makes the Federal Reserve go before the Congress to answer questions. And he would go before the Congress, and whatever a member of Congress asked him a question, he had no problem to say, that's the dumbest question I've ever heard. That's the type of guy he was in his big cigar. Well, now, if you look at our Federal Reserve Chairman now, Powell, apparently it just came out that the Justice Department is now investigating him. And why? Well, the reason on the surface is because they are building a new Federal Reserve building, and that it is way over budget, and I guess they're trying to claim nefarious things. I don't know for sure. But what's really going on, President Trump has wanted him to resign so he could put in his own person as Federal Reserve chairperson. And what great irony is, Chairman Powell was first appointed by Donald Trump. So here's a Trump appointee, and Trump is being unmerciful to him to get him to resign. So it's very interesting to me as a student of the market. And the other thing that's fascinating is we went from Paul Volcker in the 1980s, who was intimidating, and no one would say boo to him, and members of Congress were afraid to ask questions, to now President Trump calls Powell a numbskull. And I had to look up the word numbskull because I didn't know what that was. I think it was on the Three Stooges, but it's kind of a patsy, a stooge, a goof. And he's called him a loser and all these sorts of things. And I just think it's, you may not like his policies, but at the end of the day, you got to have respect for the position and for the Federal Reserve as a whole and all those employees that work there. And I think it's a terrible disservice. And now he's going to be dealing with lawyers and everything else because they're now apparently opening an investigation on him. So I think the moral of the story is, who wants to serve? And what we have here is Danny Norris, who wants to serve. So Danny, tell me again about you real fast. I have your bio in front of me, and you were so kind enough to just call me to say, you know what, I'd like to be on your show because I'm running for state office. So tell us a little bit about you. You grew up where? Oh, here you go. I want everyone to see this. Can everybody see that? There you go. That's a handsome looking picture there too. It says advocate, educator, and leader. Danny Norris for House District 142. So House District 142, is there an incumbent now?
Yes.
Okay. And that district is where?
It's the northeast side of town. So basically, it's the east edge of downtown out. It goes as high as 1960, goes as far east as the bottom part of Crosby, where Barrett, a lot of people familiar with Barrett Station, Crosby area, and it goes the east edge of downtown. I tell people basically think from Fifth Ward out to Lake Houston, basically.
I see.
Yeah,
it's a pretty big district.
Oh yeah. So it's a good swath of town. You have some inner city right in the Fifth Ward area, Cashmere Gardens. Then you have some suburban. You got Humble, parts of Sheldon, Crosby, some others. So yeah, the northeast. The northeast, some inner city, some suburban, some almost rural. When you get to the edge of the district, so out that way too as well.
And so, and we don't need to say his name, right? But if it's who I think it is, he's been serving there a long time.
He has been there since he got elected the first time in 1984.
Come on.
We're talking about 83. So it was right around the time you were talking about.
Oh, my God. I mean, you know what? I forgot who said it, but sometimes you just got to say it's time for a change. I mean, I don't know, but.
That's what I'm saying.
But I'll let you say it. Well, what are the big issues there in the district? I mean, aside for, and we'll get to it, all the what's going on in Austin and the governor and all that. We'll get to all that. But is there stuff unique to the district that's the big stuff going on?
Absolutely. So there's some major issues going on in the district, and part of the reasons I'm running are some of these issues. But so I'm a former school board member. So I guess a little bit background about myself.
Go for it.
I'm an attorney by day. I'm actually work at the city attorney's office. And I've been attorney for almost we're just a little over 18 years now.
I thought you were going to say I'm attorney by day and superhero at night, and I think you're going to open it up and see a big big D for Danny. But no, go. So you work at the city attorney's office?
Yes, correct.
Okay, keep going. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No worries. I'm a former. So I used to teach over at the law school at Texas Southern. I'm a former higher education person. So I have for about 12 years I taught at TSU. Some of my former students are actually on the ballot with me this go round.
Come on,
and have been on the ballot a couple of times. So former students have become lawyers, judges, business owners and things like that. I got on the county school board back in 2018. So the Harris County Department of Education is where I decided to put my hat in. It was actually Donald Trump's first term that made me think I could do a little bit more than fuss on Facebook about some of these issues. Maybe I should use some of these degrees I have and actually try to put a big impact on people. So I was on that board for a while, and it was actually a partisan board, which is a little different. Thankfully, we were able to do some major things over there and expand some services, raise the minimum wage to a living wage, kept the place open because since it's a partisan board, when I first got on the board, it was 5 Republicans and 2 Democrats. When I left the board, it was 6 Democrats and 1 Republican. The board flipped completely by the time I left.
And it's elected.
Yeah, it was an elected position. So yeah, it's the county school board is actually the original school board. All the independent school districts in Harris County are independent of that board. It was founded in 1889, so it was the original board when Texas used to use the counties to educate the kids, and then they switched to an independent model. And so that board at this point serves the different school districts in Harris County and tries to do things at scale and help supplement the education that's
You
going
said
on.
so much here. I want to go back.
Mm-hmm.
I just wrote a bunch of notes of things I want to say because
Mm-hmm.
you just said so many things. But before we do that, we have a caller already. And again, Houston, you know you can call me. Call us. Of course, we are on KWWJ 1360 AM, KYOK 1140 AM, KCOH 1230, KCOH.com, Latino Sports, KEYH 850 AM, and of course they have the affiliate on the FM, Sangeet Radio 85.1 FM 1460 AM, and of course to call in is 832-570-8075. And I want to say thank you to all my affiliates that are running our show on Saturday nights on some of the public broadcasting radio stations, TV stations, and of course my favorite carne guisada, Taqueria Laredo. Because and they don't pay me to say that. It's because the food is good. That's why I say it. But Dominic, I see Don. Dominic, are you there? Dom, do we have you? Something's ringing. Dominic, are you there? Well, we'll come back to that. He'll come back, I'm sure. You said so many things. First of all, you were on the school board before on the Harris County
Department, yeah. So I served there from 2018 to 2023.
Of which school board?
So the Harris County Department of Education. So
Okay.
it's the county school board.
Okay, and tell me something. Go back to what you said. Is that Dom back? No. Okay. I think we have another caller coming. Get those calls through here again, everybody, at 832-570-8075. You said something interesting. It used to be that schools were at the county, and then it became local school boards. When?
Well,
About? Just give me about.
maybe within the last 100 years. I mean,
Okay, so it's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a while. So most counties don't do any of the educating. Harris County actually is the last county school board in the state. Dallas had one. They closed theirs down about 5 or 6 years ago. But pretty much every other school district are pretty much the independent models now. So if you some states still use counties to educate the students, but Texas no longer does that. They've gone to the independent model. But I forgot when that switched. Probably at least
okay.
80 sort of years ago.
Yeah, but what's interesting about that is, does that mean the county used to fund the school system?
Yes.
Very
yes.
interesting.
So if you look at the very bottom of your tax, you live in Harris County, right?
I do.
So at the very bottom of your tax bill, the Harris County Department of Education, that is the county school board. So there's there is a tax mechanism for that department. So it is still a school district and school system it's just a countywide versus you don't have to live in HISD or.
Does that mean these schools are not in a school district?
So no. So the four schools that were run by that program were special schools. So you have two schools for special needs students. They are physically or emotionally disabled. And then you have there was a sobriety school on one side of town. That was an area nobody else was doing in any school district. And then there was a at-risk for kids for at-risk. Typically, the kids who get kicked out of the alternative programs in the school, they were the ones who we used to call them the superstars. You get the superstar students that would end up in those programs that were, their next step was probably juvie or something else.
Wow, what an interesting thing. I'm so glad that you're highlighting this to our listeners because
a lot of people know about it.
Yeah, they need to know.
Yeah.
And it's true when you get to these places when it's the last step before something bad, like the juvie system,
right?
Juvenile system. There was a school years ago, well, not years and years ago, but about 10 or 12 years ago. I'll never forget some good friends of mine. Hector Carreño was his name, and he's now no longer with us. He wanted me to speak at a school that was kind of an alternative school. And of course, normally, I speak all the time, and I usually talk about something uplifting about my background, and I'm first generation college. I'm all those stories and et cetera. And I talk about my firm and the markets. And we were on our way to the school, and he told me, and these kids, this is their last, the last hurrah for them. And I thought to myself, holy cow, they don't need to hear that because they need to hear something else. So then I was totally unprepared, and then I'm there, and there must have been 100 students, and then I started talking, and most of the kids, just about every single one of them was either black or Hispanic, almost every single one.
Right.
And I talked about how my parents, worked hard. They didn't go to college. My grandfather was a custodian, a Marine, and I talked about, my dad was an alcoholic, all these sorts of things, and I had a brother that had a difficult time, et cetera, and got caught up in the justice system, et cetera, and there were a lot of tears, right, in that audience, primarily the teachers, and I'll never forget this one student hung around, and everybody left, and I shook their hands and said goodbye to all of them, and this one student hung around, and he came up to me, and I put my hand out, and he just gave me this big bear hug. And I looked, and all the teachers were crying, and he said, "Mr. Garcia, I'm never going to forget you." And I said, "Well, you know what? I'm never going to forget you." And I still haven't forgotten him. And he then went to his, to class, and he said how much I inspired him. And the teachers were all crying, and I thought, oh my God, did I do something wrong? And they said, "Mr. Garcia, that young man, you're the first person he's ever talked to." And they said that young man is homeless. And it really, I don't know who got more out of it, him or me, because it really inspired me. So it all goes back to, with a little bit of love and a little bit of support, you can really change the trajectory of some of these young people, and that's really what we all need to do. And that sounds like what you did at the Harris County.
Absolutely, yeah. So I mean, I witnessed kids. So when I would go, we would, as board members, we would go out to different facilities and check them out, especially when they were under construction and things like that. Big ticket items we had to approve. But you go to schools, and you would see students fall, especially some of the special needs schools. We had students. One of them, one case I remember specifically. He was a kid who was falling out. He was falling out. I think he was maybe about 6th or 7th grade, but falling out, screaming, hollering. They had to physically restrain him to make sure he didn't hurt himself. And then maybe about 2 or 3 weeks later, the superintendent was showing us around, and he's like, "Hey, this happens. This is why we serve this population." But about 2 or 3 weeks later, at our next board meeting, the principal showed us pictures of him playing chess.
Wow!
So it was really a matter of saying that yes, we have kids. They have all kind of life issues that we have no control over when we get them. But our job is when we get them to make sure that we instill the values to help them succeed in life, and then let them go out and do their part. So it was wonderful, actually, as a board member. I really enjoyed my time at that board. And I guess getting back closer to your original question, so why at that board did you decide to leave and go run? So when I decided to run for state rep, I had to step down from that board.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, because I was considered a county official because it was a county school board. County officials in Texas can't run against state officials. There's a state law against that. So I decided to resign, and a couple things that factored that got in. So your question was, what's going on in the district, and what inspired me to?
Well, hold that question.
Okay.
You know why?
Why?
We got another caller.
Okay.
Is there a Lauren here?
Yes, I'm here.
Lauren, you got me, Gilbert Garcia, with a tip from me with Mr. Danny Norris, who is a candidate for state rep, District 142. What do you got for us?
So I know teachers are often saying that raises aren't keeping up with the cost of living. I'm wondering how you propose to fund increased teacher pay at the county or the state level.
County funding. You know what, like anything else, somehow, or state funding, it seems to never be enough. But when you see the state and you have this rainy day fund that's got, I don't know how many billions in there. What does it have in there now? 50 billion?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like some big, enormous number. It's kind of like spend that money to make people's lives better or cut taxes.
Right. Well, I mean, it'd be good not to defund or use other funds for things like vouchers. That's the first thing. I think we just put $1 billion away to vouchers. That would have been great for public education generally. as opposed to going to private education. So yes, adequately funding public education is very important, and I think that has been the thing. What the state has done a lot of lately, they've added extra requirements saying, okay, there's a school shooting. Well, you're going to have new requirements that every school has to do to make sure that you're safe, and all these new security requirements. We're not giving you any more money for it, but we're going to require all these things, and that is what a lot of school districts have been dealing with for the last, for a good while now in Texas. So adequately funding schools is definitely a big part of it, making sure that we are able to have funding sources for adequate funding sources to make sure schools are adequately funded. Especially some of these school districts in rural Texas, they're kind of on a razor's edge as far as margins, as far as being able to adequately supply everything. So making sure that those schools are adequately funded and making sure that they're able to do all the necessary requirements to make sure they're able to adequately address their students' needs. But yeah, making sure that there are adequate funds. I know there's a lot of property tax cuts that are proposed, but a lot of them are, I think Dan Patrick's most recent one was something to the order of like cutting for people over a certain age for cutting their school taxes or something like that. And that's like the opposite of what we need right now. We need more funding for schools, I think public schools specifically.
Well, when you had and Lauren's probably still there, when you had the county for the special needs schools, et cetera, did you have adequate funding?
Yeah, so our funding was different. So our funding model was slightly different than most school districts. Most school districts, you have a tax rate, that's it. With the programs that we ran, the big three, you had adult education, you had Head Start programs, and you had the special schools that we were talking about a little bit earlier. So the county model is basically about a third of the revenue comes from the tax that you see, the very bottom of your tax bill, about the cheapest thing you got on your tax bill actually. And then about a third of it came from services provided to the districts. So a lot of things were done at scale. Everybody doesn't have like a $2 billion like HISD. Some school districts may have a couple $100 million. And when they buy certain things, they don't get quite the same group rate. So they would do like co-ops to make sure that school districts were able to get things way cheaper than they would get on a typical level. And then and the other third came from grants. So typically federal grants for things like Head Start and other programs that were being done through the department. So those are the big three funding methods. And actually, the funding was enough where we actually were lowering the tax rate while we were there. That was something that was slightly different, and I think that made everybody happy, a little bit happy. We weren't raising your taxes; we were pretty much lowering them. So which was slightly different than most organizations in government. So
very good. Before we go to your question, or the question that you're going to answer about, why I'm going to say why run, right? Or public service. We have another caller already. Was there another caller I saw there, producer? Noah, is there a Noah there? And thank you, Lauren, for that call. Noah, are you there? Noah.
Noel.
Noel, I am so sorry, Noel. Please.
No, it's okay.
Okay, well, please excuse me for that. Noel, kind of when you say the Noel, you think of the first Noel. Or you probably spell a little bit differently, right? Do you have an N-O-W?
Noel.
M-O-E, okay, like the first Noel. There you go. I got it right the first time.
Yeah.
Well, Noel, you got me, Gilbert Garcia, with a tip from me with, of course, Danny Norris, who is a candidate for District 142 for state representative. What do you have for us?
Very awesome. Very nice to meet you guys. Thank you for letting me ask a question. So I'm kind of, I guess, new with voting, and you were talking about expanding ballot accesses. I guess, what does that realistically look like in Texas?
Very good. So have you voted before or no?
Yes,
Okay,
I voted before, but, I'm still trying to get more involved with voting. So I wanted to kind of ask how that's like.
Sure. I will turn it over to our guest, but one thing's for sure. For someone like me, I'd like to think that I'm educated and so forth, and sometimes I go to vote, and I'm overwhelmed with the number of positions that are on there. Every single judge and all the courts, and I don't even know these different courts, and I don't even know all these different things, and so it's sometimes very overwhelming. So that is why there are resources out there, whether it's the Houston Chronicle and others, that try to do a lot of due diligence to give information to people. And of course, sometimes they have a recommendation, but sometimes they don't. But at the end of the day, I salute you for wanting to know more about it all. So what say
Thank you.
Danny?
So for voting access, another thing, I'm not sure, but one of the things I'm actually doing, I'm suing Texas because they restricted voter access in 2021. So in 2020, Harris County, the county level, put a lot of resources into voting. So they did expand the voting rights. So they expanded voter access at least. So they expanded 24-hour voting at certain locations. They had drive-through voting. Me and my wife did drive-through voting back then because it was during the pandemic. And they had all these different places to drop off mail ballots. The idea was that let's get more people out to the ballot. That's everybody has the right to vote. So let's expand the right and make sure that that people have access to the ballot box. Well, 2021 session, the legislature said, okay, now all that's illegal. So they said that we're going to outlaw drive-through voting, 24-hour voting, all those things that Harris County did to expand the right to vote. Those things are now illegal. So I joined one of the lawsuits that's pending against Texas, still pending against Texas, and Governor Abbott and all the people who restricted those rights in 2021. But
it's such a good idea to make it convenient for people that work late, whether they're nurses or whether they're first responders or whether they're working in some factory or something or a plant. I mean, to make it easy for them to vote. Who can be against that? What's the reason?
The reason was too many Democrats were voting, but ultimately that was
political. It's political.
Very political. So I mean that is, and I think in some of their petitions they even said, as Harris County goes, so does the state go. So they basically were saying that Harris County has too many Democrats, and we don't want them to have access to the ballot, even though Democrats weren't the only ones voting in drive-through voting. This is for all voters. So I am of the opinion that everybody should have the right to vote, and you should have easy access to the ballot. Voter fraud is not a real thing. Most times the claims of fraud are mistakes. People are just not, like you say, people are kind of confused, or even like the caller. She's basically saying, I'm new to voting. I'm still trying to get used to this thing. I'm not sure of all the laws that are involved or the ever-changing laws. I have no idea who all these 100 people or 200 people who are on the ballot. To your point, I felt like that too. Even when I ran, I think in 2018, I was looking at that long ballot, and I was like, I just ran with these people for the last 6 months. I'm still trying to figure out who half of these people are. So I can imagine if you're just in the public looking at all these names, like who are, how do you even decide where to do? I think to her point though, if you're trying to get a good idea of who people are, I think the League of Women Voters does a very good job of laying out everybody's platform. They usually ask everybody, all the candidates, for their information, so you can get a good look at each candidate. Now, Harris County has the longest ballot, I think, in the country. One of the, if not the longest, very, very close to the longest. It's very long. We have a lot of judges. So it is a lot to pick through if you want to pick the right people. So, endorsements help, where like Chronicle recommendations and things like that are helpful. But yeah, it is a lot. So yeah, but it's something that I think the county did well. The state doesn't like it, so the state has done against it. I will advocate, I would love to go to the state and advocate for the opposite to make sure that there is a right. I'm advocating in the courts right now, but I definitely think there needs to be some expansion in that regard. So,
and Noel, I would say this to you. You know what's fun? Get involved with a campaign. Campaigns are fun because you meet a lot of people and they're like-minded. They're some of the same. No matter if you're a Democrat or Republican, the point is, everybody knows I'm a Democrat, but the point is getting involved with people that believe in the same things that you want, etc. Campaigns can be a lot of fun and really meet a lot of people. So I encourage you to get involved, and by osmosis, if you get involved in a campaign, you're going to learn a lot more about the candidates and all the other players. So I encourage you to get involved. So I encourage you to get involved. I had a little bit of feedback there. Be careful there, Mr. Producer. But hopefully that makes sense, Noel.
Yes, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I've been trying to just get more involved in it. I feel like politics is important. So I wanted to call in, ask a question. Thank you so much, Danny Norris, for answering. And thank you, Gilbert.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for calling in, and call in again.
Yeah, feel free. Yeah, if you want to get involved, all candidates like myself, we can always use way more help. So I mean, whether it be, you don't have to be mine, but just get involved. I agree with that. I think if you get involved in the candidates.
Wait, hold
if
on.
Someone else is kind of like me who wants to get involved, what's the best way for us to get involved with your campaign?
Oh, there you go. That's a great one.
Come to my website, sign up. There's always opportunities for everybody. We're going to be doing things from What's
your website? Go there.
Website is DannyNorris4TX.com. So DannyNorris4TX.com. It's or just Google Danny Norris. It should be like the top of the very top of
We're showing your website right now on live, online as well as on TV for Saturday.
And there's a join us button. So
you can see us.
Yeah, and there's a join us button. When you join us, you can sign up for you can just sign up, and we'll keep you informed. Anything we're doing around the district, you can come check it out. So yeah, absolutely.
So what do you have going on?
Perfect.
Well, thank you so much there, Noel. Do you have any events going on or block walking or anything going on?
So we block walk every week. pretty much every day of the week at this point. We're going to have opportunities to block walk. If you can do a day, we're going to be doing we're going to be at polls. We're going to be at events. There's always more events that one candidate can do. So it's good. The more people you have on your team, the more people helping and that want to get involved. I can't go to 20 events one night. You try. We may go to get 5, but the other 5 or 10 are tricky to get to, and you can only be in so many places at one time. So it's good to have more people. It's the candidate is great to show up. You as the candidate, you try to show up as much as you can, but ultimately, it's good to have help.
And the primaries when? Let's tell everybody when is early voting for the primary, et cetera. Let's go through all that.
The primary is March 3rd. Early voting begins February 17th. So we're like just about a month out from early voting.
That's right around the corner.
Yeah, just a few weeks out from early voting, basically. So we're that's like I said, we're at a sprint at this point. And the big thing is awareness. The incumbent has been there forever, and people know him, whether they like him or hate him. They know him. So my job is to make sure people know who I am. Which brings me back to your original question. So why run against a 40 plus year incumbent? A couple things. When I was on the school board, one of the big things happened. HISD got taken over, and HISD was actually taken over based on a bill that he helped author. And it was triggered by his actual high school, the high school he attended, Wheatley High School, which is part of the precinct that I represented at the time, and it's part of the district I live in. It triggered the takeover, and the law basically says if a school fails for 5 or more years, that the TEA can basically take your whole school board over. They can remove the current board and take over.
And so he wrote that bill, or his
amendment was the part that triggered the takeover. And he's owned it. He wrote an op-ed piece back in 2023. Said, "Yeah, my amendment helped the takeover happen. I have no regrets." So he has stood on it, and his reasoning that he said at the time was that he was tired of that school, his particular alma mater, being left behind is I'm paraphrasing, but basically he was like, you guys need to put more, make sure that all schools are able to pass. And to that point, I do agree with him. I don't think Texas, the TA is the route to go about it, but I do agree that you should send, your most qualified teachers to some of your most needy schools. One of the things I noticed, though, when I was, I was actually going around as a school board member, kind of talking to the principals. Now, I wasn't on their board, but I was trying to work in conjunction with their board at the time. And when I was talking to the principals, they were saying, "Hey, we got to get the kids in the building because they're having a lot of life issues." And when you look at Wheatley, the school that triggered the takeover, 98% impoverished rate. So mostly poor kids. Now, I think when we talked about this in the Chronicle, he's saying, "Well, you trying to say poor kids can't learn?" Not my point, but you don't have to be a education expert to realize, that the more opportunities they have when they get home, the more likely they are to succeed. Because like when you get home, like I tell people, I read very well, but I read not so well in the dark. If the lights aren't on, I'm not going to read very well. And there's no food in the cabinet, I don't care about reading. I'm just going to be worried about other things. So making sure that when they get home, mom and dad have opportunities, and even at the very top of the education food chain is what I realized. You can only do so much. You can control what happens in the building. You can have a lot of wraparound specialists, which recently a lot of them were pulled out with this current administration through HISD. But you can have wraparound specialists. But ultimately, when kids get home, do mom and dad have opportunities? Do they have because if the kid has special needs, they may need a tutor or something of that matter. But if they don't have any extra income, that's not going to happen. So you want to make sure when kids get home, that you do your part in school. Make sure they have all the opportunities and all the resources they can in school. But when they get home, make sure mom and dad have opportunities as well, so they can have the best shot possible to succeed in life. So that has been my push. So make sure that the kids are taken care of when they get home as well.
Well, what's interesting about that is it's kind of like I want to say, what do you mean? We're not saying that impoverished kids can't learn. What we're saying is when you have monetary advantages, you just have all these advantages.
Right.
That's what we're saying. And if you look, when I'm from public high school, et cetera, I never had a tutor. I never had a SAT prep course and all these incredible things. And it's all about advantage. And when you have resources, you just have more advantage. That's what we're really saying here.
Yeah.
And so how do you equalize, or how do you make up for some of those advantages? And that's really the thrust or affirmative action to begin with, which is to try to make up for the advantages that others have that have been in place since the dawn of this country to really give a more equal playing field. There's a wonderful thing I saw on the internet, and I won't remember what it was, but it was some type of camp for these young people. And if I say this wrong, someone please fact check me, because I won't remember exactly. And there was the counselor or whatever, the teacher, whoever it was, an adult, saying, okay, I want all you kids to line up. And he said, if you went to if you went to private school, take 3 steps forward. And then if some took steps forward. If your parents, if you live in a household with both parents, take 3 steps forward, right? And if you live in a household that has, resources, and you don't have to work, take 3 steps forward. If you have to work just to help the household, and take 3 steps back. And he did all these things that really are things about advantage. And then he told the young people, okay, look around at you. And some were way up and some were way back. He goes, pretend this is now a sprint, and this is where you got to start. That's what it's all about on affirmative action,
Right.
Which is, if you're in the back, how can you make up for the fact that you didn't have the resources that gave you that advantage?
Correct.
It's a fascinating thing, and so I encourage everyone to go see it. But let's go back to you, Noelle. Did we answer your question and everything? Hopefully so. Maybe we lost her already. Okay, great. So let's go back to, so why are you running? What inspired you to run, first of all?
Well, yeah. So when the takeover happened,
Okay.
that was a big inspiration for a few reasons. I mean, it didn't go well at all, and I still think it's not going well. Personally, I'm wishing them well, because our kids are involved. And I say my kids are in a different school district, but
Does your opponent still take the position that, oh, it's worked out great, or is he now starting to say, well, I really thought it would come out differently? I mean, is this going to become a debating point between y'all?
Oh yeah, he's been 10 toes down for the takeover. Matter of fact, I think there was another article where he basically told HISD, the last elected board, he told them to get the hell out the way. He has been very much in favor of the takeover, and he's basically owned it. I wish it would go well. It just not what I've seen and what I've heard from people in the district have not been great things. And I know, I've got a chance to meet some of the board members before when I was still on the board, and they seem to be, well-meaning, but there is no sense of accountability. Where I think that's the biggest issue people have. If typically school boards work where is if something happens in the school district, you don't like it, you can actually hold somebody accountable, because you can go up to a school board member who can put pressure on the superintendent, who can put pressure on whatever is going on in that school system. Now it's appointed by TEA, and the current superintendent doesn't have a whole lot of oversight. Matter of fact, typically a superintendent has about $50,000 of anything under $50,000 they can kind of move forward with it, and then anything over $50,000 they have to come to the school board members to approve. I think last I heard, the current superintendent has like $1 million authority, something ridiculous. It's
wow.
It's way. I mean, the scale is completely different than anything else. So there seems to be not a lot of accountability, and I think that's the issue that's going on right now in HISD. But to my point, so when that happened, and nobody, including the incumbent, seemed to address the underlying issue. It's like you have to address the issue outside of the classroom, and I realized as a school board member, there's only so many things you can do as a school in the school board. You can only address what's going on in the 4 walls of the school, and to address those issues outside of school is going to have to be the state and local officials to help pour money into those communities and pour resources into those communities to make sure there are more opportunities. So that was one of my reasons. And some of the other issues going on in the district also has the lowest life expectancy in the county as well.
Is that right?
Yes, about 20 years less than the other side of the county. Which so there's the cancer cluster that we've heard about, also in the district. There's some major problems going on in the district. The district has basically been forgotten about, and when and as the incumbent, when you've been there for 40 plus years and you have not addressed these underlying issues, then you are part of the problem at this point. And even if you weren't part of the problem, after 40 something years, to your point earlier, maybe it's time to do something else.
It's clearly not working.
Yes.
You're not moving the needle.
Correct. Correct.
Whether it's, I don't know, the way it's set up in Austin, but at the end of the day, maybe it's old fashioned. Do you have the zeal for it anymore, or the energy anymore? Because 40 years is a long time.
Yeah, I mean, and some people have even told me, well, he has seniority, and that's great. And there's that. Even though I think the Republicans kind of removed any, I think no Democrat can hold a chair position anymore because.
But seniority means nothing.
Yeah,
if you're a Democrat in Austin,
clearly,
right?
and even when he was the chair, because he was the chair of the Education Committee, also in was it 2021 as well. Another bone I had to pick with him too is that during that period, you remember that they were talking about CRT. All this CRT is being taught in the schools. It wasn't. Critical race theory. I'm sorry. Critical race theory. They shortened it to CRT. Critical race theory is a law school PhD level course that some law schools and some PhD programs teach. It is not a K through 12 program. I had a couple of friends on HISD calling me like, Danny, I'm getting told that we're teaching a CRT. I don't even know what it is. So like, what the heck is a CRT? Like, you're not teaching it at HISD. You're not teaching it at any level. But they put that anti-CRT bill in 2021. He was the chair of the Education Committee. It passed out of the House, and it went into law. Now, basically talking about race in general is a problematic. And that one stuck with me really, really heavily because my daughter, when she was about to graduate now, but when she was in middle school, she was taking Texas history. They skipped slavery because they were scared to violate the anti-CRT bill. So I bring that up because, like, well, you're even when you were in the position of power and you were over the Education Committee, and that bill still came through, and you somehow let it come out and go and be to the detriment of our kids. Because now they're missing big chunks of history that affect all of us. So, and in I ended up doing a 5,000-mile road trip that next summer because I was like, well, you guys are just completely skipping history, and especially Black history, and we're Black. So I mean, like, you don't even know your own history. So I took them on a 5,000-mile road trip around the country trying to teach them Black history. We went to 18 states over 16 days. And I, took them to more museums than they ever cared to go to, and they were ad nauseum of museums. But that was all inspired because even when he was in a position of power, he let a bill come through that was to the detriment of kids like mine.
When I hear these phrases and these buzzwords, critical race theory, I mean, my whole view is history should be taught, and sometimes there's good, and sometimes there's things that we're not proud of in our history as a nation, and it should be taught because people need to know, because that way it won't happen again. And so my view is, I don't want to say critical race theory because then we're falling into the trap that they've laid out for us. At the end of the day, people need to know more about these things, not less.
I really think the problem with history is that we like to teach things as good or bad. I think it would be, and that's the problem. When you say this was good, this is bad, you fall into, well, this is bad, but you're related to these people who did some bad stuff. I think it's better. I think it would be better to be more of the motivations. What are people's motivations? And that's something I think that those are bigger lessons that we can actually, that can be, implemented right with students in their daily lives. Like okay, so yes, you took somebody else's cookie, what was, why'd you take the cookie? What, that's a daily practical lesson as opposed to, well, this person was good, this person is bad. You kind of color them all in one broad brush. I think it's better just to say, okay, what motivated Hitler? He did some very things that are absolutely awful, but what motivated him? What was his motivating factor? What's motivating Trump? Is he a good or bad president? It's debatable. We see people on both sides, but what is his motivation for doing these specific things? That to me is a better dialogue, and I think there's more that can come from that.
It's a good reflection.
Correct.
I mean, to think about it, and it's kind of like there's this play, and I'm one of the co-producers of it, called Here There Are Blueberries, and this is not a commercial for it, but we're going to London now, we're going to go to Seattle, and it was off Broadway for 3 or 4 runs in Miami and all kinds of places in Europe, and it's what started as a scrapbook was sent to the Holocaust Museum, and I believe it was Holocaust Museum, but essentially a group that took that scrapbook and started investigating the pictures, and it goes back from World War II, and it was a scrapbook that belonged to an SS family and an SS officer, and it was one that lived right next door to a concentration camp. And what's fascinating about it is it's kind of like you look at this these photos, and they're just living life, and they're just going through these things, and this shows a lot of SS officers and enjoying life and stuff. And it's kind of like, well, wait a minute, how could you be living like this, but yet you know that right next door you're exterminating people, killing people, and how do you reconcile that? It's a wonderful play. It's very dramatic, and it really plays to today, which is how can you sort of some of these things that are going on in the country? How can you have these positions? Because someday you're gonna have to defend them,
right?
And how can you just think that things, certain things are normal, like this woman that was killed in Minneapolis. Do I have that clip, producer? I'm going to show this clip. And again, I'm hoping I can show it, but I'm going to show it. Because, of course, it's on YouTube and it's been all over the news. And people can judge for themselves, because at the end of the day, it doesn't look to me like this woman was a threat. And, and the point is, what happened to when you see these cop shows on TV, and I say cop, but, law enforcement, they've taught them to, shoot the tire or something when someone's trying to get away. Shoot the tire or something. Here, the shot was like right through the windshield into the person's head.
Right.
And let's see if we can show this.
Also breaking this afternoon,
We're gonna
there
try to
is
get to it
new
now.
cell phone
But it's
video
just
taken
awful.
by the same ICE agent who fatally shot a woman in Minneapolis. CBS
Here we
News has
go.
obtained this video,
We're
and
coming
a
on right
warning that
now.
you may find it disturbing.
Just give us another minute there. Can we get that up or no?
Okay, we don't change our
We're
plates.
trying to get it on. Let's keep going as we're trying to get it organized there.
There it goes.
Oh, here we go.
Also
but that's not
breaking
the
this
right clip.
afternoon, There is new
I don't think
cell
it is.
phone video
There's a
taken by
point.
the same ICE agent who fatally
Yeah,
shot a woman
we'll come
in
back to it. We're not
Minneapolis.
prepared.
CBS News has obtained this
we'll come back to
video
that.
I saw it,
a
and
warning
it's-
that you
it's
may
terrible.
find it
Yeah,
disturbing.
and
And it looks to me like she was trying to drive away from the officer. And of course, I'm just a citizen. But even if she weren't,
Okay, we don't change our plates.
what happens? Shoot the tires or something like you see on TV.
it's not
That's fine.
surprising.
US citizen.
I think I was listening to one of the stations where they're basically saying the issue with right now is that ICE has done this huge up ramp, and they've hired all kind of. We saw the bonuses. They're basically recruiting, and they're not. From what I understand, they're not so heavy on training right now.
We are
So you have a
told
lot
this
of untrained
video came
officers
from
out there
Jonathan
doing,
Ross's cell phone.
with
He
a
is
gun
the
and a
ICE
badge.
agent accused of
And
shooting Renee Good.
I'm surprised. Actually, I'm surprised
At the
there have
start,
not
you can
been
see
more of these
Ross is
incidents
in front
as
of
of
the
now because
stopped vehicle.
they're descending
Good
on
then
cities
speaks to Ross through
and
that
really
open
just kind of flooding
window,
the streets. So
saying,
there's going to be more
quote,
incidents
"That's
like
fine,
this
dude, I'm not mad
because
at
you have
As
people who are not
Ross
so trained.
walks
And
around
then
the
the
SUV,
interesting part is
victim's
how people are
wife
defending it.
confronts him while
I
holding his cell
have
phone.
been very
Then another
I have
agent
been
is
very
heard
interesting on
ordering
seeing how
Good
that's
to
kind of
get out
fallen
of
on
the
party
car.
lines where
That is
the people
when
on the
she
right side of the
turns
aisle are
steering
saying,
wheel and pulls
how dare
forward.
she try to run
This
over the
video was
officer, and then
posted on the
like to your point, I'm like, I don't see her trying to run over. I saw her trying to
Then
drive off
Vice
at some
President
point.
J.D. Vance reposted it to
If
X,
some masked men run up on
saying
me
it proves
and try to
that Ross
accost me, I
fired
would probably
in
try to leave the scene too.
Yeah.
I can't imagine, and I think the the sentiment that citizens, when these people are running up at their cars, are supposed to behave, super, just supposed to comply and be very docile. When this guy basically pulls his gun out and shoots somebody, it's like she's supposed to be calm and collect when people are running up on her car. But this guy's, the second she's trying to look like she's
And
pulled
it's
off.
kind of like, does it give you the right to shoot to kill versus, shoot the car, shoot the tires? You see on TV, and I have friends that are law enforcement, and you see them chasing after a perpetrator.
Mm-hmm.
They don't shoot to kill them, when they're shooting at them.
Right.
Actually, they're in there trying to run them down. It's just very interesting. And, of course, more facts will come out.
Yeah, and especially and even the fact where it sounds like the officer did the shooting, call it the B word right after shooting her. So I mean, it doesn't sound like he was really trying to disable the car. It sounded like he was just trying to put her down.
He was like shooting to
yeah,
kill.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Do we have another caller there? No, we do not. Let's keep going. Oh, yes, we do. Is there a Chase there? Chase, you got me, Gilbert Garcia, tip from me, Talk Inspiration and Prayer with Mr. Danny Norris, who's running for District 142 in the State House. What do you got, Chase? Chase. Chase, you got me there?
Hello?
Chase, you
Yes,
got me,
sir.
pal. What do you got? You got me and Danny Norris. You got a question for my guest?
Yes, sir. I wanted to know what Mr. Norris's thoughts were on the current HISD school board and how they've been handling teachers being let go and then raises for teachers in more at-risk communities.
Very good. So, and going back to that is, when people talk to me about what's happening, especially with the teachers, they're very unhappy. And they don't feel like there's any accountability. They feel they're being treated poorly, almost like children. So go ahead. I'll let you answer that question.
So from the reports that I've gotten, I'm not, I get a lot of, reports from people who either in the system, have been in the system, have left the system. A lot of teachers are not happy. They do feel like they're being micromanaged. And it's very much HISD's way or get the heck on.
Right.
Doesn't create a great work environment. HISD, I think it has one of the highest turnover rates right now because of that for teachers. That doesn't lend well to student learning, because if you have continually changing teachers, you don't have any familiarity. It's not the best environment for that. And the board, from what it seems like, like I said, when I met a couple of the members, and I only knew one person who got on that board originally, but I don't think she's a bad person. I think she's genuinely trying to do her part, but I don't know. I think the issue becomes still, there's a different motivation when you run for a board and when you get appointed to a board, and you don't really have to account to the people that elect you there. So like I said earlier, typically as a population, we can say, okay, we don't like what's going on here. We're going to talk to our local board member, and they're going to put pressure there. There is no sense of that. Like, I guess you can complain to the TA commissioner, but they kind of seem like they've come in with a plan. They don't care what anybody else thoughts are of that plan, and they're going to run that plan regardless of what anybody thinks or how they feel or how many teachers leave. That seems to be the approach right now. That's the impression that I've seen so far, and those are reports I have. So I don't see how that benefits the students long term. And we're gonna. I guess we'll see what the state of HISD is when they leave. Eventually, I think earliest is sometime next year. But it has not been. All the reports I've gotten so far have not been favorable. And again, I want them to win, because ultimately these are kids' lives that are in the balance. So it's not like I'm wishing them bad. Any ill will toward them. But from what I've heard, it seems like the schools and the teachers and the principals are kind of having to juggle and trying to tap dance almost to appease the current administration, or get thrown out and let another cycle start with another teacher or principal or whoever, another administrator. So far I haven't got good reports, and that's probably why that bond failed when they tried to do the bond. Was it last year, the year before? The bond failed. Even and I think the Chronicle even recommended you haven't built any trust with the community, so you can't ask the community to put billions of dollars into your hands and get approval for things like that. So no, I'm not surprised it failed. So far it does not have the community behind it, and that's supposed to serve the community. So it doesn't have the community behind it that I've seen so far. So I hope that answered Chase's question.
Chase, what say you? Got a follow up?
Pardon?
You got a follow up or anything there, Chase?
No, sir.
All right. Well, we thank you for calling in, my friend. So I want to come back to something here, and Danny, which is go back to, you were teaching at TSU?
Yeah.
At the law school or the undergrad?
Law school.
And what were you teaching?
Legal research, civil rights law, independent research. I was a research guy mainly. So I all the research, mostly first year students is usually what I had. So that kind of coming in. It's funny. First year students are they're the blank slate. Everybody comes in, they know nothing. Everybody thinks that you go to law school and you get calls from if you were like me, you might get calls from your family, like or people in the community thinking that you're a lawyer now. Like, I've been in school 3 weeks, y'all. I know 3 weeks more than you do, but yeah. So it was great. It's almost like being a high school teacher. You kind of watch the kids grow, but they grow really fast in law school. They're already grown. There's that too, because you can go out and have a drink and they'll be right next to you at an establishment. That's a little different because almost all of them are over 21. because it's a grad school program. But yeah, it's great watching them grow. You see them go out and become prosecutors, business owners. And high dollar lawyers. I've had a few even give write big checks to the campaign. Well, I say bigger than I've given a lot of campaigns. So I was like, hey, go ahead, when you give me a campaign contribution with a comment, always a good deal. So it's great to see them go out there and do so much that it's like, hey, you invested in me. Here's an investment into your current venture. So I didn't, which means I didn't do them too bad, hopefully.
But you're with the city attorney's office.
So I'm the Prop A lawyer for the city.
What does that mean, Prop A?
So the Proposition A that passed back in 2023, where the council members can bring items directly to the agenda.
So then, what does that mean? You're the Prop A person.
So so typically before 2023, the mayor set the agenda for the city.
That's right.
When in 2023, when they decided to have Proposition A, what was on that ballot at the time, that allowed city council members to bring items right to the agenda. If 3 or more of them sign off on it, they can bring it directly to the agenda.
Does that mean that you have the ability to say, I'm looking at it and we're following the law? I mean, what's the angle of what you're doing?
The big 3 things I look at when I work with them on item. First of all, is it legal? Yeah. If it's not legal, we need to stop immediately. So is it legal? Is the first question. Is it practical? So can the departments actually do it? So like if we talk to the departments, if they're saying there's no way in the world we can even possibly begin to do something like this, maybe we need to take it back to the drawing board and figure out like what can be done. So there may be an issue that you're trying to address, but maybe this is not the way to go about it.
So you look at it first and then let the council members know this is just not practical, or you do say, you can go ahead and go forward with it because it's practical.
Well,
is that what you mean?
I try to work with them on all of the steps. So the big 3: is it legal? Is it practical? And if we do get sued for it, are we going to actually? Is it something that we'll actually come out on? So those are the big 3 things that I typically walk with them through. And the practical part is usually the longer part. The legal and the sue part are usually pretty quick answers. It's the middle part of working with the departments that are actually going to have to implement it, and which is still part of the mayor's administration, and actually making sure that if this does come, can you actually do this? And
is it happening all the time? Like these council members say, does everybody once a week they're like, and I want to do this and I want to do this, or did it already kind of level out and people are like, well, it seems to be working?
No, I mean it's still a fairly new toy. So Prop A passed in 2023. They created the position at sometime in the middle of 2024, and I was the first one appointed to the position in the beginning of 2025. But it's still fairly new. I think they realize, the council members do realize this is an option. It's a toy, so to speak. It's the new toy that they can kind of use when necessary. Some council members use it more than others. Like Councilmember Powell has used it, I think, more than the other council members. He's a lawyer as well. So
has he been able to get stuff on the agenda then?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So yeah, so when 3 or more council members come together, as long as they sign off on it and it's legal, it goes right to the agenda, regardless.
Oh, great.
Regardless of if it can be done or not.
So it's working.
Yeah, it works. It works as much as it can. It is still fairly new, and we are still making adjustments as we go. I think the city and the administration and the council members are kind of still trying to figure out the best way to go about it on sometimes, but for the most part, it works when, and sometimes like we saw what Councilmember Plummer, she had an item, and it's like sometimes it pushes the administration to move things forward on some of these things.
You know what that sound means?
What's that?
It's been an hour already.
Oh wow!
Can you believe it? There's an old show called Carol Burnett, and at the end they got the song "I'm so glad we have this time together," and then it says it's time to say so long. It's time to say so long.
Right.
But you know what? I hope you call in a couple of times here between here and March, because I think you got a good story, and I think you got the passion, and you certainly got the energy. So I'm going to give you the last 30, 40 seconds. Just look in that camera. That's the TV.
Okay.
That's your camera for the social media.
Okay.
Say whatever you want to say to District 142.
Yeah. Well, Danny Norris, looking to represent District 142. I am here to make sure there's economic opportunity, make sure there's health care, make sure there's education for our kids and for the future for the district. I have a track record. Feel free to look me up. And just remember that a vote for Norris is a vote for all of us.
There you go. Houston, Harris County, and District 142. You heard it here first. This is Gilbert Garcia from A Tip From Me saying, we'll see you next time. All right, Houston, Harris County, this is Gilbert Garcia of A Tip from Gilbert, Talk, Inspiration, and Prayer. We're going to now be on television. We will air every Saturday on Comcast 17, AT&T Channel 99, Phonoscope Channel 96, Suddenlink 99, and also hmstv.org. Every new episode every Saturday at 7 p.m. And follow me on social media. See you then.